Have you ever been matched with someone online and wondered if you should continue with the relationship? Stay tuned to learn my recommendation for a woman in a match who might be ready to give up. Hi everybody, I'm Sue Allen Clayton. Welcome to my channel where we're learning how to read tarot one card at a time. In today's video, we'll be using a 3-card spread to answer the question, should I continue with this relationship or give up? I will be using the Radiant Rider-Waite Tarot, and there is a link below. This question was posted anonymously online by a woman who I will refer to as the Querent. I don't have any information about her other than her question, which is, I connected with someone on social media. Should I continue the relationship or give up? For simplicity's sake, I'm going to refer to her connection as Zachary. The Querent did not mention that she used a spread. However, I will be using the Strengths, Weaknesses, Path Forward spread to look at her relationship. Card number 1 is Strengths, and the Querent drew the Page of Swords. Card number 2 is Weaknesses, and the Querent drew the Devil. Card number 3 is the Path Forward, and the Querent drew the Magician. I'm assuming that all of the large figures in the cards represent Zachary. Let's talk about my first impressions. All 3 cards are facing almost towards us. The page's body is turned to the left and his head is turned to the right. The Devil and the Magician are facing directly towards us. All 3 have their right hands facing upward. The Magician and the Devil have their left hand facing downward. We have 2 major arcana cards, so I think this is a bigger deal for the Querent than just a casual relationship. This is a reading about love and we don't see any cups. Let's look at each card individually. Card number 1 is Strengths and shows the strong points of the relationship. The Querent drew the Page of Swords. The suit of swords is about intelligence and communication. The Page of Swords, in this case Zachary, is known to be enthusiastic, inquisitive, and quick thinking. Zachary is also likely to be curious, loves to learn, and someone who excels at puzzles and problem solving. As we look at the next card, the Devil, I'm wondering if he's using these talents for good or evil. I think this couple has an intellectual connection as we don't see any cups in this reading. Perhaps they enjoy reading or watching documentaries together and then having lively discussions. Or they like visiting museums or following politics or attending lectures at a local college. So I think one of the strong points of their relationship is their intellectual connection. Pages are the children of the deck. I think something else that the Querent might find attractive is Zachary's childish energy. Think of how kids act. They have a lot of fun. So in addition to his intellect, the Querent could have been attracted by Zachary's fun-loving approach to life. I'm a big fan of Hallmark romance movies, and this is the exact plot of most Hallmark movies. You have a woman who is working hard at her soulless, big city corporate job. She ends up having to return to her small town roots because somebody is selling her childhood home, farm, restaurant, bookstore, winery, or ski chalet. And she runs into the local handyman who teaches her how to have fun again. I'm going to spoil the end and tell you that they always fall in love. That's a roundabout way of saying that once we get to be adults, a lot of us don't have enough fun, and I could see this being very attractive. Children generally have a lot of self-confidence because they haven't yet figured out how to read social cues or learn to doubt themselves. Think about 3-year-olds. They are willing to do almost anything they can to keep your attention, even if it starts to get very annoying. They also dream big. This is the boy who's going to be an astronaut, firefighter, doctor, lion tamer, and ice cream truck driver, and doesn't have a problem with their goals. I'm not sure what Zachary's version of lofty goals would be. We can see that his head is literally in the clouds, so I imagine that he has big plans. This might include sailing around the world in a homemade sailboat, running for President of the United States, and or retiring at age 30 after becoming a tech billionaire. None of these are impossible, but they are probably not realistic either. After all, when we look at this card, we can see that Zachary's head is literally in the clouds. Regardless, I can see how Zachary's level of self-confidence and ability to dream big, in addition to his intellect and communication skills, would be very attractive to the Querent. All tarot cards have an upside and a downside. Although this spread position is about the strengths of the relationship, I did want to point out that things are not all rosy. Let's start with Zachary's intelligence. The sword extends outside the frame of the card. His intelligence is literally cut off, and despite what Zachary thinks, he doesn't know everything. It is quite possible that Zachary is overconfident about his intellectual ability, mostly because of his immaturity. This shows up in several ways. He loves debating but doesn't know when to quit. He enjoys asking questions but doesn't know when to stop. He might also say things that are hurtful, either deliberately to hurt the querent or accidentally because he sees discussions as an intellectual exercise. Zachary doesn't stop to think about how his words will impact the querent, and he can be quite overpowering and hurtful. I also think that Zachary is hot-tempered. First of all, he has red hair, which can indicate someone who is hot-headed. He is holding a sword with both hands, almost like he'd hold a baseball bat. He's looking over his right shoulder like he's expecting an attack, and it looks like he'd have no problem using the sword if he thought it was necessary. The cut-off sword also indicates things about the relationship that are beyond Zachary's understanding. Since there are no cups in this reading, some of the things he doesn't understand might have to do with his relationship with the querent. For instance, he can't figure out why she's angry that he wants to spend all day Saturday partying with his friends when she expects him to stay home and help her clean out the garage. We see Zachary standing on a hill. This can signify that he believes that he is smarter than everyone else. It can also indicate that he is a show-off and wants people to look at what he's doing. Finally, Zachary's immaturity could mean that he doesn't believe that society's boundaries apply to him. So he may get into legal trouble, say unkind things, either intentionally or unintentionally, or use his keen intelligence to manipulate people just for the fun of it. Card number 2 is weaknesses and highlights the areas where the relationship struggles. The querent drew the devil. This is not the most positive card to get, especially in the weakness position. The devil indicates a toxic relationship where people are manipulated or controlled. In this case, it is Zachary who is controlling the querent. First, let's look at the color. The background is pitch black. This signifies negativity, sadness, guilt, depression, and emptiness. So it's not exactly a joy-filled relationship. We also see gray in the wings and horns. Gray signifies gloom, depression, and unhappiness. On the devil's right hand, we see a cross. This is a trick to draw people in. They think that they are worshiping a creature of faith, but it is just the opposite. I think this indicates that Zachary has tricked the querent, and he is not what she believes him to be. In the devil's left hand is a torch. Normally, a torch would be held up high to provide illumination. In this case, it is being kept low to keep people in the dark. Once again, Zachary is hiding who he really is. The devil often symbolizes sexual attraction rather than any kind of a spiritual connection. We can see the torch lighting the flames on the male's tail. This represents sexual desire. I think that Zachary's main interest in the querent is sexual. The wings of the devil are from a vampire bat. Bats suck the blood out of their prey. For some reason, I was drawn to this and decided to do a little bit more research about vampire bats and how they feed. It's actually pretty creepy. I wish I hadn't gone there, but I think it's also a good fit for the querent's relationship, so I'll share the basics. The first thing that vampire bats do is to find a suitable host, generally livestock such as cows, horses, and pigs, or wild mammals or birds. So I believe that Zachary actually targeted the querent on social media rather than their meeting being more random. The next step is for vampire bats to approach their prey at night so they can avoid detection. We talked about the positives of Zachary in the previous card, including his intellect and childlike exuberance. He approached the querent in a way that she would not detect who he really was. Finally, vampire bats choose the best place to make an incision in their victims, which is where blood vessels are close to the surface. The bat's saliva contains anticoagulants, which keeps the blood from clotting. After about a half an hour, the bat leaves when it's full, and the experience generally does not kill the animal. I interpret this to mean that Zachary knew the querent's weak spots. His goal was to drain as much life force out of the querent as possible without killing her. This could be through some form of abuse that makes her doubt herself and see the devil, which we remember has a cross on his hand, as her savior rather than her abuser. Overall, there are many negatives in the relationship. I also believe that the querent was targeted and deceived by Zachary. You've made it this far in the video, and I wanted to stop and ask for a favor if you're not already a subscriber, and that is to please hit the subscribe button. It's free for you, and it will also help me grow this channel. Plus, it means that you won't miss anything. Thanks so much, and if you're already a subscriber, I truly appreciate your ongoing support. Now let's get back to the video. Card number 3 is the path forward. It gives advice about what the querent should do in the future, and the querent drew the magician. I feel like in this reading, the magician is just a nicer looking version of the devil, with a sunnier background, different clothing, and no horns or wings. We've already determined that Zachary targeted the querent on social media and pretended to be something that he's not. It's almost like they turned the light on in the cave. The devil now looks like the magician, but it's not a true change. It's just another level of manipulation. The garden of red roses is meant to signify that Zachary has been forgiven. Red roses represent love and passion. White lilies represent purity and rebirth. So the idea is that Zachary has reinvented himself in a way that allows him to be forgiven by the querent. We often talk about magicians being master manifestors and directing spiritual energy down to earth. But I think they can also be master manipulators, and the energy that they access does not have to be nice. In this case, I believe that the purpose of Zach's manipulation is to confuse and control the querent. The magician has a lot of tools. We see all 4 elements on his table. It shows that Zachary is in possession of everything he needs to make his manipulation seem real. This can make the querent distrust what she is seeing and make her question her beliefs that Zachary is being deceitful. The magician is wearing a long white tunic and a red robe. The white robe signifies a purity of intention, new beginnings, and innocence. I think this is a trick. Zachary is pretending that he has changed, but he really hasn't. The red cloak can represent love, energy, and passion. It can also represent rage, which I think is more likely. The querent may be afraid of making Zachary angry. The magician's belt is made of a snake biting its own tail. In the story of the Garden of Eden in the Bible, the snake is a symbol of temptation, deception, and disobedience. Overall, I think this shows that Zachary looks like he's changed, but he really has not. Finally, we see a lemniscate or infinity symbol above the magician's head. I think this indicates that Zachary's actions will continue forever unless the querent puts a stop to the relationship. In summary, we see that Zachary targeted the querent on social media. She was immediately attracted to his intellect and fun-loving nature, even though it had a downside. We see Zachary represented by the devil who is preying on the querent and draining her life force. Although Zachary looks more human in the magician, the querent needs to understand that nothing will change in the future, even if it looks like it has. Zachary will continue to prey on the querent until she ends the relationship. I hope that this video gave you some ideas that you can apply to your tarot practice. Please leave a comment if you'd like to share what you've learned. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.